If you've spent any time breeding in Palworld, you know how deep the system gets, and how long it can take to get the perfect pal. But there is one pal that could seriously speed up the whole process. Used properly, Yakumo can do a lot more than most players realize. In this video, I'll break down exactly how Yakumo's trait copying works and how to get the most out of the ability. Yakumo's partner skill is called Birds of a Feather. When Yakumo is summoned, meaning he's out in the world with you, and a saddle is equipped, the ability activates during captures. If the pal you're capturing has any empty passives, Yakumo has a chance to pass some of its own traits onto the empty slots. But they can't override existing traits, they can only fill blank spots. So if the pal already has 4 passives, Yakumo won't affect it at all. Every pal spawns with a random number of passive traits, all the way up to 4. The higher the pal's level, the more likely they are to come with 3 or 4 already. Since Yakumo only works on empty slots, you want to focus on catching pals with fewer than 4 passives. Ideally, you want to capture pals with 1 or 2 natural traits max. That gives Yakumo more chances to pass on their own traits. So what are the odds of Yakumo passing on traits? The rate is tied to the level of the partner ability, or how many stars Yakumo has through the pal essence condenser. At base level, so 0 stars, the ability won't actually work at all. Here's how the odds increase with each level. At 1 star, you have a 15% chance of passing on each ability. 2 stars is 18%, 3 stars is 21%, and at the max 4 stars, you have a 30% chance to pass on each ability. Each trait is rolled separately, so if you're using a 4-star Yakumo with 2 traits, each one has a 30% chance to pass on. You could get both, 1, or none. The odds of 2 traits together is about 9%. 3 drops down to around 2.7%, and all 4, less than 1%. So while it's possible, it's not something you'd want to rely on regularly. When Yakumo only has 1 or 2 chances to pass traits, like when the wild pal already has a few of its own, the game follows a specific order when attempting to apply Yakumo's traits. For my testing, Yakumo's traits are always rolled in this order: top left, then top right, bottom left, and finally bottom right. Each trait is rolled one at a time in this order. You can even see this reflected on the captured pal. The traits added by Yakumo will appear in the same order they were rolled. The key detail here is that once the pal has 4 traits total, the game stops checking. So if the pal already has 3 passives on its own, and Yakumo's top left trait is successfully applied, that's it. The remaining traits won't even be considered. You can't rearrange the traits yourself, but if there is one passive you really want to pass on, it's probably worth breeding a few Yakumos until that trait shows up in the top left. That gives it the highest chance of landing before the pal's trait slots are full. It's exactly because of this why giving Yakumo 4 traits usually isn't worth it. If the pal you're catching only has 1 or 2 open slots, most Yakumo traits won't ever get a chance to roll. By focusing on just 2 traits, you can simplify the process and give yourself a much better chance at landing something useful, especially if one of those traits is sitting in the top left. If you do want to pass down 4 different traits, the best approach is to use 2 different Yakumos, each with 2 traits. Catch your target pal using 1 Yakumo, then switch to the other and keep catching. Eventually you'll get 2 pals that have all 4 traits between them. Breed those 2 together, and you'll get the perfect offspring with all 4 passive traits in one. If you're looking to get yourself a Yakumo, you can get one in the Sakurajima biome, but the traits you'll get are completely random, and the spawns aren't exactly common. It's not a bad option if you just want one quickly, but if you're aiming for specific passives, breeding is a much more efficient way to go. If you already have pals with good traits, you can just chain breed Yakumo directly from them. For example, if you already have a pal with strong passives like Remarkable Craftsmanship or Artisan, and they can actually produce a Yakumo through a known breeding combo, it's actually an easy way to just pass the traits along right from the start. If this isn't an option, another easy and more consistent early game method is to use Lambull and Nightwing. Lambulls are common and spawn all over the starting area, making it super easy to catch a bunch of them with different passives. If you want, you can even increase spawn rates in the world settings to speed things up even faster. Technically this method works with a lot of different pals, but Lambull is especially convenient because of how easy it is to get early on. Another great alternative is Kativa and Mosanda. Kativa is also found early in the game, just like Lambull, and Mosanda is relatively easy to find or breed too. This combo works the same way, and it's just as effective, especially if you don't have access to a Nightwing. Once you've caught a good batch of Lambulls or Kativas with useful traits, start breeding them with Nightwing or Mosanda. Each time you do, you should get a Yakumo, and some of the traits from the base pals may carry over. Keep going until you get Yakumos with 1 or 2 of the traits you want. From there, you can breed those Yakumos together to combine their traits. Once you got what you need, condense that Yakumo to 4 stars using the pal condenser. Repeat the process if you want a second Yakumo with different trait combo. And if you want to make condensing faster and more efficient, consider getting a Yakumo with Philanthropist trait. This speeds up the breeding time, especially if you're just trying to breed a bunch of Yakumos to condense. Once you've got your 2 Yakumos ready, each with 2 traits, you can start working on your target pal. Summon your Yakumo, make sure the saddle is equipped, and look for a wild version of the pal you want. Catch a few, then switch to the second Yakumo and do the same. Afterwards, go through the ones you've caught and look for a male and female that have the 4 traits you're aiming for between them. Then you just need to breed those 2 together to get the traits you want on the offspring. It can be a reliable way to get a pal with all the traits you want on it without relying on low odds or a ton of trial and error. Yakumo is a great tool when you're trying to build something from the ground up, especially if you're working with unbreedable pals or you're targeting traits that just aren't common in the pal you're after. It's also useful early on when you don't have strong breeding pairs yet and just want to speed things up by stacking traits through captures. But if you've already got solid pals with 3 or 4 good passives on them, it might be faster just to breed those pals. You'll have more control over traits and you don't need to rely on capturing RNG. Yakumo isn't something you always need, but when you use them at the right time, the partner ability can save you a lot of effort. If you found this useful, leave a comment, drop a like, and subscribe for more. Until next time, thanks for watching.